Hey guys, welcome to the GERGOROCKO show. And I've been in about 6 schools in my life, and none of them were really focused on technology. And this school's different. This is Desert Academy Santa Fe, and they actually have a lot of focus on technology. And right now I'm going to interview one of the technology teachers here at Desert Academy. Please welcome Mr. Chris Zappe.
Hey. Good morning, Gergo.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. A long weekend.
Yeah, 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start by a story about your life. Just go back to about your college days.
Okay. In college, I was primarily interested in media arts and character animation. So I actually I pursued that in Chicago at the School of the Art Institute. And when I was there, I was studying things like making holograms, doing web design, doing video and animation and things like that. And when I left, I figured, I'd be working on computers and animating somehow. But also simultaneously with that, I found that I really didn't like computers as much as I thought I did. And so when I left college, I was kind of at a loss for what I was going to do. And what I ended up doing was spending a year kind of deciding, how to incorporate what I was good at and what I wanted to do and what was available. And so I ended up coming back to Santa Fe, taking a look around, getting a couple of odd jobs here and there. And then by means of an old contact through the search and rescue team in Santa Fe, ended up getting a job at Desert Academy 8 years ago. And that was a very, very cool introduction to teaching, which I'd never really considered, never thought of doing before. And so because of that kind of chance meeting with an old friend from way back, I ended up finding the job that I never knew I always wanted to do.
So, what's your favorite activity outside of school?
I have a lot of activities I enjoy. I want to say that a lot of them don't involve computers because I spend my day job working with computers and kicking them around to make them do what I want them to do. So a lot of the other things that I do are hiking and backpacking up in the mountains above Santa Fe, going fishing with my dad, and riding motorcycles and dancing. So really just being active and exploring, doing things like that. It was really important, I think, to balance things out.
So where did you go to college?
Chicago, again, at the School of the Art Institute. It's a school that started back in the 19th century with a museum and gradually built into what's really a fine arts-based college. It's less about turn students out and get them jobs and more about teach them about classical art and get ideas swirling around so that people can make unique decisions and choices about their work nowadays. It's less about marketability and more about quality.
Did you have any jobs before teaching at Desert?
Mm-hmm. One of my first paid jobs was actually, I was a bike messenger in Chicago. So I actually spent a couple days a week riding around downtown Chicago and delivering packages and boxes and sometimes really huge things that were just like, hanging off the back and stuff like that. It was a really fun job. And actually, now that I think about it, that was a really good way of just kind of, I don't know how to describe it exactly. It felt really good to be so active, but then also be doing, other pursuits at the same time. It really was made for a good balance, I think. And
so what would you say your standard of living would be with your current wage?
I get by well enough, I think.
How long have you worked for Desert Academy?
8 years. I started in 2006. We were at our old campus on Camino Alegre, and I was hired to start up the digital media arts program at Desert Academy. So my supervisor was a programmer and he was teaching computer science and programming, and my background was to introduce more of the graphics and animation to the mix.
How difficult would you rate this job on a scale from 1 to 10?
You know, difficult is relative to skill level, I think. So it's definitely a demanding job. If you're in any supervising position, you're not just managing the area that you're working in, you're also managing the people who work in that area. So, you know, it always provides interesting challenges. I remember one time, very early on, our old servers broke during the school day, and we ended up actually taking them out of their room and bringing them into a classroom and opening them up to do a repair on them. And I thought that was very interesting. It was very stressful, but it's exciting, I think. It's never boring, if I can say one thing about it. And the teaching side of things, I'm always learning something new, which makes the job very enjoyable.
So again, on a scale from 1 to 10, how excited are you to come to work every day?
At the end of a long weekend, less excited about coming to work than I am on any other given day. But no, I definitely come to school with this idea of what are we going to discover today? Because a lot of the stuff in technology changes so rapidly that rarely can I teach the same thing 2 years in a row without making some significant adjustments and things like that. So I feel like I'm always learning, and from that point of view, it's really, really exciting to continue coming to work.
Yeah, technology changes incredibly fast. So we have the 1991 Macintosh SE out there.
Yeah, an old legacy item.
Yeah, 1991, and now 2013, and the iMacs are this thin.
Yeah. Huge bright screens, not black and white anymore.
Yeah.
You can still carry them around.
Right on the display.
Yeah, they don't have the handles anymore, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's so old that it's cool again. And I'm finding out about a lot of old technologies from my day right now. It's like, they're old, they're busted, but they're awesome.
Have you ever worked on an Apple II?
Yeah. I've never personally opened up and maintained an Apple II, but that was the first computer I was exposed to. And for nostalgia, I actually have an Apple II emulator that I downloaded and I've installed on all the computers in the school. So you can actually play Oregon Trail circa 1986 on our new iMacs.
That's cool.
Yeah. Number munchers in San Diego.
How technologically advanced do you plan to make Desert?
I plan to make it as advanced as it needs to be to support the education and the important things, I think, to teach at the school. So I mentioned in an earlier conversation with you that things like iPads. A lot of schools are using iPads for textbooks and things like that. And I think they're great devices for consuming information and annotating stuff, but they don't stand up so well as far as creating, actually making your own unique things, as well as, say, an iMac or a Mac Pro or things like that can do. And so, from that point of view, you kind of have to pick your technology, pick your battles. You can't do everything without having all the staff to do it too. So if it's a small department, you really have to focus on what is the most important. So, for example, I teach a class in microcontrollers right now, Arduino microcontrollers. If I were to introduce iPad textbooks to the entire school, I'd probably have to drop that. And personally, I think that getting a handful of students really excited about making circuits and making computers do stuff is more important than taking weight out of people's backpacks and devoting all my energy to supporting that technology. So you kind of have to pick, like I've been saying. So it'll get as advanced as it needs to be to support the education goals of the school. And right now, my personal goals, being the technology director, are to support creative expression and to support scientific inquiry through computer science.
So this is my last question, but I looked this weekend, and I've heard of 3D printing before.
Oh yeah.
And I really looked into it this weekend, and it's really, really cool. So what's your opinion about it?
3D printing?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's great. I mentioned Arduino microcontrollers. You can actually, Arduino is kind of on the forefront of the open source movement right now. It's really bringing open source into the spotlight. And open source is pretty much all about, you can download stuff for free, you can modify it so the developers are the users, and then you can push it back out there. And it's not something that you have to buy like traditional computer software. It's something that the community creates and the community develops. And Arduino actually, people have created 3D printers that are open source. So you can go online and you can actually find the parts to create a 3D printer. You buy an Arduino, you download the program to install onto the Arduino, and you have your own 3D printer right there. And the 3D printer can make parts for other machines. The 3D printer can prototype models. I've even seen like an old film camera, wind your film and take pictures with it, that was made completely using parts from a 3D printer. Like, you can download a camera and make that. So I think it's got a ways to go, certainly, but it's definitely a technology that can go.
Things much easier.
As far as I understand it, Los Alamos National Labs has a 3D printer capable of fabricating an entire house. It's that big.
That's huge.
Yeah. So with that in mind, you could prototype anything. There's also, I've heard of the 3Doodler. It's essentially a 3D printing glue gun. So you have this pen in your hand, and you push a button, and it draws melted plastic into the air, but it cools fast enough that you could actually draw a spiral, and then when you're done, you have a little spring.
That's cool.
And things like that. So the ability to print in space, I think, is just a really, really fascinating, cool place to go.
Yeah. So it was nice having a talk with you.
Yeah. Nice having you in my office. I will now get out of your way.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
So this has been the GERGOROCKO show, and I will see you guys later.